I have talked in the past about video games and whether they count as art or not, whether they're products or not. Let's wade right back into that again. Of course, video games have a certain element of artistry to them. You can't look at a video game like Journey or Brothers and tell me that it's not artistic. Obviously, it's artistic. But what about the lowest common denominator? What about the lowest version of game? Does that game still have artistry to it? Well, yes, I would say so. I can't think of a single game that doesn't require some amount of artistry. This game not only requires level design and character design, but it also requires music and sound. It requires interaction between the player and the character. It requires something, some level of artistry. Certainly games are artistic. There's no denying that. And I don't think anyone would say otherwise, unless you're like Ebert or whatever. But the thing is, games suffer from a major fault. I did a film analysis on The Conjuring. When you do a film analysis, you talk about camera angles, you talk about symbols and elements in the scene that hint at an overall storyline. You talk about foreshadowing. I have yet to see a game do all of those elements efficiently. Now you may say, Frank, that's not fair. You can't do camera angles in a video game. Well, I mean, unless you do like a Resident Evil style game, right? Here's the thing, you can do camera angles in a game. You can do it in the cutscenes. And that tells you things about the character. If you don't want to do cutscenes, that's fine. You can still do something with it. Because the camera's under your control as as a designer. The camera's not in the player's control until you give it to them, game designers. Now, I'm not trying to lecture you and say, you need to do this. I'm trying to say a real problem in the industry. And the problem is, games are looked at almost as engineering projects. If you think about how an engineer works, or a programmer, it's very logical, it's very mathematical. But that's not how an artist thinks. That's not how a director thinks. Not how a cinematographer thinks. And all of those realms, painting, film, television, they don't look at video games in the same way as those types of art. And that's the reason why, is because video games have historically been something that engineers make, that you program. So there's too much in terms of engineering, not enough in terms of art. I'm not trying to knock engineers. Understand this. I really love when an AI is programmed really well. It reacts a certain way, it acts a certain way, it almost feels like a real character. That's the way it should be. Now, I'm not knocking that, saying that's not artistic either, but there is some element of artistry in that. The problem is, the element of artistry that's in video games, it sort of falls apart when you give players control. There is a push these days to do more story-driven games. More like Twine games. You just sort of read the text on the screen and that's your game. Well, I'm sorry, but that's a step backwards. Why can't you have a platformer that's got an in-depth storyline? Why can't you have a Metroidvania that has human emotion mixed in? Why can't you do these things? You can. You totally can. Don't let the medium limit you. Consider this an open letter. This is an open letter to game developers. If you are going to make a game, consider the artistry of it. you can add so much to it. Not just in terms of story. I know I've talked about story so much, but in terms of art. What are you trying to show in this cutscene? What is this character? What is his personality or her personality? What is this character's perspective compared to the other? In film, camera angle means a whole lot. Low angle, camera looking up, means whatever is being shown on screen is dominant. High angle, camera looking down, means whatever is being shown on screen is submissive or weak. You can make use of film elements in your games. There's no reason to be limited by that. And when you cede control back to the player, you can switch from that film type storytelling into a more literary type storytelling. There's no reason you can't do that. And I think it would make a fascinating game to have those two elements mixed together like that. So, what am I trying to say? Basically, you can have artistry and engineering. Architects will tell you that all the time. Truth be told, I really like games. And I just hate to see a step backwards in video games. So, take what you will. I'm Frank Gamer. If you enjoyed this, let me know in the comments below. Over here is a video I did with my friend Super Positive, aka Paul. Are video games art or products? Or art or business? Or are they just money-making maneuvers? That's what this is about. Click it if you're interested. It's an old video, so I look a little different. I'm in a different location. Keep that in mind. Down here, I'm going to link to my Conjuring film analysis, so you get what I'm talking about. It'll be part 1. You can go through to the other parts. Let me know what you think. If you want more film analyses like that, I can make them. If you don't, and you want me to stick to video games, let me know that too. But I have been considering doing analysis of a game like that. I've considered BioShock. I've considered the first Halo game. There is a lot of symbolism in those games. But the elements of storytelling that you find in film aren't present. And I think there's something missing because of that. Well, thanks for watching.